Talent joins me, former senator of Missouri. First, Jim, you have watched a lot of State of the Union addresses, as have I. How'd you rate President Trump's?
I thought it was great. I mean, first of all, I really liked the optimistic tone. I loved pulling in all those different heroic figures from different parts of America. And I like the fact that he's focusing on all his accomplishments. I'm not going to take the whole interview talking about it, but I'll tell you, in the field of foreign policy, Trump has really achieved great progress against the Chinese, in the Middle East. I mean, I could go down a list. So I like the speech. That said, these speeches have gotten too long. I mean, this goes back to Clinton. Personally, I'd prefer that they be shorter, but I thought it was a great speech.
35 million Americans. He got a clear shot at 35 million Americans. There's a new movie out I wanted to ask you about before I forget, called Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. It's made by Michael Pack. I interviewed Michael yesterday. I know you have known the justice for a long time. I know that his big Sherpa was a Missouri senator, as you were a Missouri senator. Do you think Clarence is a folk hero on the right and still despised on the left? Does a movie like Clarence Thomas Created Equal make a difference?
I hope so, because, apart from the politics or the jurisprudential questions, and everybody, of course, is free to agree or disagree with his jurisprudence, I think he was, just as a matter of personal justice, I think he was wrong terribly in that confirmation hearing, and I hope that this sort of thing clears it up in the minds of fair-minded people. We all have a right to have our personal records judged in a fair way, regardless of what people think of us as public officials.
And the movie features Thomas talking about himself, and it's a journey that begins in a crushing amount of poverty in the segregated South. He has a spiritual journey. He goes from radical to observant Catholic. It's filled an anger and rage youth. He's now a happy, jovial man. I just think Clarence Thomas is an American inspiration.
I do too. And I just think the politics behind his confirmation, unfortunately, will keep a lot of people from seeing him that way. But maybe this documentary will help.
Created Equal.
Though, when you do the right thing, you're going to make enemies.
Now,
and,
let me turn to
I'm sure that's how he sees it, you.
I hope so. Go see Created Equal, America. I want to turn to this Gallup poll. 59% of Americans say they are better off financially than they were a year ago. That's the highest number in the history of Gallup polling for over 40 years, Jim Talent. What's that tell you about re-election for Donald Trump?
Well, I think the president's in a very strong position, both for that reason and also because now we're moving into a cycle where we're going to compare him to somebody else and what they're likely to do. And I think he's going to come off well in that comparison. I think there's a lot of people who still have doubts about Trump. And, you got to understand and just think about how you vote. There are sometimes you cast an enthusiastic vote, and sometimes you cast a vote where you go, well, I have some doubts, but I'm going to vote this way. Well, they count the same, right? And I kind of think the soft voters at the end of the day are going to say, I don't like Trump's style, but I like what he's produced, and I don't want to risk losing it all with Sanders or Warren or Buttigieg or whoever it is.
I agree with you. They're going to say the Twitters bother me, but I also like having a job, and I like my kids having a job. I like everyone having a job. Talk to me a little bit about Pete Buttigieg. I've been playing Monkees music, which is my generation, a generation ahead of yours, just because he reminds me of the Monkees. He's a fun kid, and at 35, he's not a kid. He served his country. He's a military veteran. I honor his service, but it's an implausible argument, and he stopped going on Fox. He stopped coming on this show because the left was giving him a hard time. He's not an authentic lefty. He's a center-left guy, but I just don't think he's going to carry this off. I think it's Bernie's race. What do you think?
I tend to agree with you. Bernie has something that's very important in a primary. He has a large, dedicated base of support, which helps to guarantee that he's in this thing for the long haul, right? And the person I would watch on the other side, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not a Democrat. Get Democrats on and talk to them, is Bloomberg because of his money, and because his money has, to this point, been lifting him up some in the polls. I mean, he's got some momentum.
But, stop and frisk. Joy Reid used to tell me when I did Joy's show in the old days that they will never, and in the Meet the Press green room, he will never be forgiven for stop and frisk, ever.
Well, listen, there are negatives to all of them. But remember, what we're talking about here is a race If we get 3 or 4 people who last in this, and they each have some percentage of the vote, it's very difficult to figure out what's going to happen. Bloomberg can hang in because of his money. Bernie can hang in because of his base. And I think Biden can hang in if he wants to because of the name ID in the background. And who knows how long Warren is going to stay. So I think it's very early to predict this, but I think Trump's in good position no matter what.
Yeah, I really don't see Biden surviving a month, but we'll keep talking every week. Jim Talent on Twitter. Follow him at Jim Talent. Chuck Todd is ahead of America. We'll ask him who won, who lost. Joe Biden lost, according to Chuck, and he and I agree it's over for Joe. But maybe he sees a comeback trail. What's he think about Pete Buttigieg? We'll find out. Don't go anywhere, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.